So there's a little bit of debate online on a Facebook group for the Eride Pro with a post that I started talking about replacing the stock brake pads, because the stock brake pads, in my opinion, have maybe a bit too much metal in them and they squeal. And I saw some videos of other YouTube creators that have a problem with their SR brakes squealing. And I have a lot of experience with hydraulic brakes. This is my racing motorcycle here. It's got a Brembo braking system on it. And, you know, I bleed my own brakes. I've got all the tools to do that. I've done it many, many times in my racing career, racing motorcycles. You can see my words up here for racing motorcycles. So I'm not trying to brag, but I have a lot of experience with it. And, you know, when these brakes started to squeal, I was using that experience to get rid of the squealing. So one of the first things that you do is you know, what can happen is that you can glaze the pads, right? So the surface of the pad gets too hot, and the resins in the pad, or if it has a lot of metal in the pad, can create a shiny surface on the front of the pad and can glaze them. And when that happens, it can lead to vibration and you get the squealing on the rotor. So one of the ways in the motorcycling world that you can ensure that doesn't happen is, especially when you get brand new brake pads, they're not mated to maybe the grooves in the rotor, even a new rotor, right? So it's important that if you do glaze them, by basically using them, you know, too quickly when they're brand new, you can use like an emery block like this to knock off the glazing on the pad. And then typically in the motorcycling world, we would also sand the rotors if we're getting brand new pads, just to take off the old pad material, but then also to just smooth it out a little bit microscopically, nothing major. And I'll show you that here in a second. But anyways, I did do all of that with these brakes. I sanded the pads, sanded the rotors, cleaned everything with brake cleaner. Automotive brake cleaner works great. This CRC stuff is pretty awesome. You can get it from a auto parts store. I would recommend just getting some, you know, for your e-ride anyways. Did all that, went out, bedded them in slowly, just very lightly, a couple quick, not quick stops, but just easy stops. Then once you do that, you're ready to rock and roll, and it should be fine. Eventually, you know, both brakes started squealing, even the back brakes. And so the next thing you look at is the pad material. And pad material can vary wildly on these things, especially in the motorcycling world. Here are just a sample of brake pads that I've used. And some of these came from racing teams. And the material can be, you know, like sintered, it can be organic. And organic brake pads, it just simply, like, that term originally came from anything that was non-asbestos, but in the modern world, it basically means that the pad has a bit less metal in the material. And here you can see of kind of what glazing looks like a little bit. This is a stock pad that came on a Yamaha R1. It was replaced with a racing pad that was organic. And here is a stock R1 caliper that has organic pads in it that are for racing. Organic pads are a little bit nicer to your rotor. They don't wear the rotor as much. They have a bit more Kevlar and other resins in them other than, you know, synthetics versus just metal, right? So yes, they do wear a little faster, but they're softer and they have better performance on the bike overall, except in extreme heat conditions where you would need a more metallic pad. But in the case of the Eride Pro, it's not necessary to have a more metallic pad. So again, just kind of showing you, I sort of know what I'm talking about with this. This bike has monoblock calipers. These are like $2,400 each. These rotors are $1,800 a pair, and they're 7 mil thick for racing. So they're full floaters, right? So, and that's to stop this bike, you know, that weighs 420 pounds, maybe 450 pounds, down from over 180 miles an hour. So on this, same exact physics apply, okay? Same physics apply, even though it's just a much smaller scale. So when I bought the organic pads from Velar Sport, and they came in, I did take the rotors off. Here's a rear rotor from an R1. I could just use it as an example. And if you look, you'll see that, you know, that there's some microscopic grooves in there. Typically, you'll see some tiny bits of black pad material in those grooves. That's totally normal, right? But when you are replacing brake pads with brand new pads, you take the rotors off and then you just lightly, you know, I mean, not even really lightly, I just kind of aggressively sand all the way around here just to get the pad material off. The major thing is to get this thing clean, not to take a bunch of steel off or anything. This is stainless steel. Same as the rotors that, you know, are on the, not exactly the same, but pretty much the same material that's on the Eride. Do that to both sides and then clean it really well with brake cleaner. You try not to even get, you know, anything on the rotors whatsoever if you can help it. Like even, you know, fingerprints. You don't want anything on there, any oil or anything to get on these things. So the brake cleaner gets everything off, dries really quickly. You put it on there, brand new pads, and then the next step is to, you know, if I were putting brand new racing pads on this motorcycle at the track, which I've done before, you would put the new pads in, go out into the parking lot, and just go back and forth across the parking lot a few times, lightly braking it first just to bed the pads in so that that initial wear gets them kind of seated with the grooves in the disc. And once you do that a few times, you're ready to go out and race. And we're talking like really punishing these brake pads. Did the same thing on these, right? So in addition to cleaning the rotors and sanding them and remounting everything, even safety wire on the titanium bolts that I put on here, okay? So went out and just bedded them in gently. And after a few, there's a plane flying overhead, sorry about that. Just after, you know, a few times bedding them in, just braking slowly in a long distance, then you're ready to bear down on it. Absolutely zero squealing on these now. And I must say, because of the pad material change, they actually brake a lot better. I mean, the bike it's night and day better. It brakes like it should. It brakes like you feel like it should. It really slows down. Definitely a fan of the Velar Sport pads. And all in, it cost me about 80 bucks for the front and the back shipped. So kind of a no-brainer upgrade in my opinion. Still lots to do to upgrade the SR, but the brakes and the tires were the number one thing. Took off the knobby tires, right, and put on the Golden Boy 241 Shinkos. And since most of my riding is on like light trails and street with some dirt, these are just a game changer. I mean, it's the handling and the safety, especially for turning on asphalt, is just night and day better. So anyhow, that's some theory and experience and practice of why you sand discs and how to do it and why you do it and how it can make a difference. So I hope that helps. See ya.